do you do? Do you provide more car parks for people so to get the retailers in? Do you get more people on public transport? That's too much as well. Paul Fosterville, when was the last time that you took a bus?
I take a bus every week, usually several times a week, because it's very convenient to get around. Being Wellington Central based, it's the best way to get around. But look, I think parking is expensive here, but we have to acknowledge this is a city council issue. It's up to local bodies to set that.
But can't you set the tone in Parliament? Can't you set the vision for a sustainable city?
We're a democracy, Wallace, so ratepayers get to elect their city council every 3 years if they don't like what they're doing. But I will say we have invested significantly into public transport, so motorists...
Tell me.
Well, okay, motorists pay for not only their own travel, but 50% of everyone who's on public transport as well.
All right, Holly Walker, what do you make of what Paul said?
Well, I agree with Paul. The bus is often the best way to get around here in Wellington. But I disagree with a lot of the people you talk to on the street there about parking.
Why?
So it's a complicated argument, but essentially it goes like this. If you put up the price of parking, which I know Auckland Council is considering doing, then more people choose to use public transport.
$1 an hour.
More people choose to use public transport. That gets people off the roads, some people off the roads. Those who are left driving have a freer run into the city and they're more likely to find a park when they get there. And the patronage of public transport is boosted, so that makes the public transport system more sustainable and a better source of investment for infrastructure in the future. So ultimately what it does is free up our valuable urban land so that people...
because at the moment... It sounds like a philosophy. It's quite convoluted.
At the moment, a lot of land has to be set aside for parking within the city limits, and that's such a waste of valuable space in our urban environment, which could be used for parks, it could be used for building more housing, it could be used for walking and cycling and making our cities much more livable.
Chris, all I know is, as an Aucklander, people are shocked. I mean, you go to the cinema, as I did, or the ballet or whatever, and it's $20 for the evening for your parking. It's a huge issue.
Yeah, it's very expensive.
You can't afford it, so the average person can't go into town.
It is really expensive, but you have to build a really good quality public transport network first. You can't ask people to use a public transport network that doesn't exist or that doesn't meet their needs. I haven't seen any city in the world who have invested in a big expansion of public transport who have then turned around and said, we regret doing that. Every city that does it then finds that it does have a really positive impact.
How do you get in from Upper Hutt? Or from the Ruben Tuckers?
It depends. It depends. I regularly catch the train and I also drive as well, so I can see it from both sides. Unfortunately, the parliamentary sitting schedule doesn't always make it possible for me to catch the train, but when I do catch the train, it's a brilliant service through the Hutt Valley.
Let's go to Damien.
I just got to add to that, the experience in Auckland, now that the rates have gone up, the experience is that around the university at AUT where I teach, the students can't afford to park there, and I wonder, that's good for me, because I park there, but they can't. I'm with Sarah Webb from the Inner City Association, basically a group set up to hate the suburbs. Is that right?
Well, sort of. We like the inner city.
You represent retailers and business owners and so forth in the inner city. Wellington's situation parking-wise, if I was to drive down there 1 o'clock in the afternoon, want to pick up some shopping, am I going to get a park?
Very difficult at the moment. Our problem is that we have 2 car parking buildings that are out at the moment because of the earthquake issues. So actually finding a park in Wellington at the moment is very difficult, even if you do want to pay $4 an hour.
$4 an hour. I mean, in Auckland now, it's $4 for the first couple of hours, then it becomes $8 an hour. You park there for most of a day, it's $50 for parking.
Yeah, so in Wellington, what we're doing is, what we want to do is try and encourage people to use the car parking buildings if they want to stay longer than a couple of hours, and keep the on-street parking for people who just want to pop in and collect something from a shop, or spend half an hour in town.
I notice you haven't talked about public transport so far, so is that not an option in Wellington?
It is, and in fact, actually, Wellington has good public transport. It could be better. For a lot of people, it's convenience. They want to be able to get into the city quickly. Once they're in here, they want to be able to get around easily, and that's why, as you saw, a lot of people will actually walk, because Wellington's a very accessible city, which probably not so much in Auckland. But it needs to be affordable. That's key. It's not as cheap as it used to be, and so people are often thinking, well, I might as well bring my car even if I do have to pay for parking.
You didn't have to make this an Auckland versus Wellington thing, I was trying not to do that, and what we find often up in Auckland is that people will go to the mall rather than go to try and brave Queen Street, because it's just a nightmare down there.
And that's what happens here. People will go out to Lower Hutt, they'll go out to North City because the parking, there's lots of parking and it's free. Whereas when you come into the city, if you're going to be here a couple of hours, that's $8 to begin with. So people, and you can easily get a park out in the malls.
And go to Maidstone Mall as well, eh, Chris Hipkins? Go to Maidstone Mall. Was that still a thing in Upper
There's
Hutt?
fantastic parking there and it's free.